Greetings, everybody. We have returned once again on this evening here. We are going to be doing our best impressions of entertaining people to see what we can do to fill your evenings.
Yes.
That sounds the most accurate you've described us so far.
And by best impressions, kind of like the one that he did before we started to go live.
That was
one
pretty.
of those kind of best impressions. Yeah.
That was pretty best.
And that is the first joke of the evening.
Nice spit take right off the hop. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Excellent. Excellent.
So yeah, today I was carrying my nice new little mini Adamas. Might
Shocker.
have done a quick little modification and put on the little mini bug out clip on it as well, because I think it's fittingly appropriate.
Got speed holes.
Speed holes. It totally
does.
does.
That guy with the same knife that we're reviewing, that fancy guy down there, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I had to get one too. So we're not. He's not the only one that we're reviewing. I think I like the regular deep carry. I think I'm going to keep it with that. Aesthetically, I think I like the look of this one better. But maybe that's just me.
Oh, fair enough.
Yep.
Joe, you or me? Me.
Yeah.
I'm carrying the ZT0055 today because it's a monster. And it's like some weird kind of like transformer pterodactyl thing.
I think the word I think the word you're looking for is knife. It's a knife.
It's a transformer pterodactyl thing. Thank you very much.
I don't know about your transforming whatever, but I've got the 707 still. I tried to have the S90 native supplant it for a little while, and it just didn't last. I went back to the 707. Should just learn my lesson.
Your supplantation has failed, usurper. Be gone with you.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know if the native deserves that. It's an okay knife. I mean, I don't carry mine that often either. I gotta be honest.
The word supplant.
Yeah.
There's only one variation nicer than the fluted carbon fiber, though, and that's the fluted titanium.
Yeah, I'd like to see the weights on those two, because I think that one wasn't milled on internally, so I bet you she's a heavy little tank.
Yeah. Personally, I still like the carbon fiber more, but I understand why you'd like the titanium more, for sure.
The carbon fiber is absolutely gorgeous.
It's pretty.
No doubt.
You know what else is gorgeous? Not the Mini Adamas.
It's our ugly mugs on screen.
No, not anymore. Now it's the Mini again. So that knife's it's cute. It's cuter than I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Nigel,
I'm angry about how much I like this thing.
I'm shocked that Nigel went home with it, like after less than a day's worth of time handling it.
Mm-hmm. It was one of those that just get it in your hand and just like, damn it.
oh crap! I think we lost Dennis.
Bum bum bum.
Dennis has succumbed.
So I guess we'll start with his review.
I mean,
well,
it's totally fair.
He did say he was having issues with his internet stability. Oh, there he's back. Cool.
Hey guys.
Yay!
Hey, you're back. We were just saying we're going to start with your review, but here you are.
Because you weren't here to do it.
Just a quick shout out to Ben and Darren and Justin in chat. What's going on, guys?
You can do those things, because it's going to be a second before I can get everything back up and make everything look normal again. So
that's fair.
Sorry, guys.
Let us know what you guys are carrying in the comments today, in the chat.
Indeed.
It's funny, you asked that question exactly at the same time that Mr. Fisk did.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
And as we're waiting to see what everyone's carrying, I'll remind everyone to like and subscribe, or else you will be cursed that every time you open up a bottled beverage or a canned beverage, no matter what it is, no matter how fizzy it is and how full it is, how flat it already is, there will always be a spray of fizz that comes out and gets you wet. Like and subscribe.
or you'll get wet.
With a spray of fizz.
I suppose it just kind of depends on what kind of party it is. That's
Sure, for 1% of the time, it's a great thing, but the other 99% of the time, just mild inconvenience. I like it.
Yeah. If you know it's coming, it could be just a game. So just point it the other way.
Yeah.
Just want to make a quick shout out to Cal and the Finest Tradition. And Mr. Fisk, he's here too. But I don't know if we've had the Finest Tradition in chat before.
Maybe once or twice, but always happy you joined us. Yeah.
Indeed.
Greetings.
So we want to waffle a little bit about this knife before we get into the reviews, or?
I think the biggest waffling we got to talk about is the fact that it just has crew wear. I mean, that's the biggest difference.
Other than that, to my recollection, the only thing that's going to be widely available with crew wear near this price point is the PM2, I think. But other than that, there isn't really a lot available in crew wear sub $600.
And I didn't get a picture, but I should have gotten a picture of it side by side with the Griptilian, because they are like almost identical in footprint type of thing.
Which is funny that it's not a mini Griptilian.
No.
Yeah. Kind of like how the mini Crooked River is about the same size as a 940, which still makes me laugh.
It's one of rare occasions for me where I prefer the smaller version of the knife. I usually gravitate towards the larger of the two. But other than this and maybe the mini Crooked River, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head that the mini version is the one that's like.
Yeah.
So when I say that this knife is cute, I don't mean that it's like minuscule cute. I don't even mean cute in the same way that the native can be considered cute. This thing's just cute because the old version was a monstrous tank of a knife. And they are making the full size with crew wear as well, but I think the mini's got more people interested just because it's a mini Adamas. It's strange.
We're going to see how cute it is as I'm beating the crap out of it this summer. That's for sure. Because he's going to be batoned. That's all I'm saying.
Fuck yeah. I was just telling Paul all the stupid shit I did with my Adamas in D2. And I'm like, man, if the D2 could withstand all the crap I put it through, and the crew wear being as tough as it is, I'm going to be excited to see what people are going to be capable of with it.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to make a comment about Ben's Harpy, the QSP that he's carrying. I saw him post a picture of the new one. Yeah, it looks super fancy. I'd like to check out some more of the QSP stuff, especially their higher end stuff, because I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Yeah. So.
I've been liking everything I've seen so far.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, Darren's asking a question in chat here about crew wear and whether it's good, bad, why it's good, why it's bad.
We should probably address that before we get into the review, because it is kind of a weird steel. It's not really all that well known.
The layman's term for me to put it is M4 on steroids. So that's, I think, the easiest. If anyone has some finer details, I'm more than happy to hear about it. But yeah.
It's super hard steel. It's pushing up into like the 67 Rockwell, isn't it?
I think they did 64 to 66 is what they put on their.
Cool with that.
On Benchmade's website.
Benchmade one.
I think
I can double check while we're chatting about it. Yeah.
What would it compare to toughness wise?
About an M4.
I think a higher than M4 in toughness, like a 10V or a 4. Maybe not 10V, but maybe 4V type of thing in toughness, or even a 3V type of thing in toughness, but an edge retention more like M4 type of thing.
63 to 65 for the crew wear. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
And it is a Crucible branded steel as well. I think a little bit of the history was supposed to be not a replacement for M4, but an improvement upon. The only area that I'm really aware of where it falls short is corrosion resistance. Benchmade ended up Cerakoting their blades just like they've done with a lot of their M4 blades in the past, so it's not a huge shock. But edge retention is supposed to be pretty good as well by comparison. It's supposed to be quite a bit of a leg up on M4, which is insane thinking about what, in particular, you've done with your Contigo and how well that thing holds an edge.
Yeah. Well, and even what they claim for their toughness, like we've Rockwell file tested some of their M4, and they say 64 to 66 or whatever type of thing, and we've got some stuff that even surpasses that. Or no, it's 62 to 64. Sorry, for Benchmade.
Yep. And it usually for Benchmade, it seems to be almost exclusively on the higher end, at least for all the stuff we've tested, which is always nice to see.
Yes. So looking forward to doing some things with crewwear, including potentially modding the blade in some sort of form, whether it's a Tanto blade or not. But
you're gonna put a Tonto on the Mini Adamas? That's the worst thing I've ever heard. I'm done. I'm done.
Got away.
It could work.
Oh yeah, it would work fine. And you know what? Even if they release the Tonto Mini Adamas, I'm sure. But just to take one off of the bail or the bailout and to put it on the Mini Adamas, I hate it. I hate that so much. Yeah. Oh, and unlike the one in the picture, it does come with a standard deep carry clip, I should say. This is just, I believe that's Nigel's we're looking at right here with the Mini.
While we wait for Dennis to come back in, Dave Likes Knives is asking, is the blade traction coated or is it a slick coating?
It's got a bit of a texture, doesn't it?
It's not quite slick. It's a slight texture. It's not quite slick, but it's not quite rough. It's like there was like a flour in the coating when they put it on. Like it's a very, very fine, granular sort of feeling to the coating.
Kind of
very similar to the coating on the M4 bailout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel it doesn't feel grainy like a top sniper in SE. It does feel like a little bit more finer than that. That's good to hear.
I think it's the same coating that's on the bailout, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually double checking the coating type if they do say on their website.
And a quick shout out to Morto Beans for joining us live for the first time. What's going on?
Glad you could be here.
They don't specify.
Glad he could be here. I'm fading in and out, so we might as well have someone else take.
At this point,
Dennis, I forgot you're on Wi-Fi, right?
I am. Yes, I'm not plugged in directly to the router.
If you go out again, if you right-click on your Wi-Fi icon on the taskbar, hit troubleshoot problems. Maybe try that, but I think
we'll see.
Hopefully, you just stay and it's not a problem. So yeah, crewwear, super tough, super good edge holding. What's the drawback? Corrosion resistance isn't really a thing when it comes to this sort of steel, but that's why they have the Cerakoting. Cost of manufacture, I know it's been talked about when it comes to stuff like S110 and S90, how ridiculously expensive it can be to machine. I haven't heard anything about crewwear being particularly difficult to machine, but I imagine that's probably a cost factor here for sure.
It's definitely working into the super steel category as far as grinding and shaping. Mm-hmm. It's got to. When you're up with those toughnesses and things like that, it's hard to get into a 3V style toughness and not blow through belts when you're trying to work with it, right? So
yeah. And do you think? Oh, yeah.
Quick shout out to John in Mississauga for joining us. What's going on, John?
Nice to see you, man.
Good evening.
And Ben saying, "Holy crap, 16 people online! Got to be a new record." We lost one, so it's gone away. But we had 16 there for a second.
We're doing okay.
Yeah.
We've had a couple good airings, but do we want to dive into some scores?
Yeah, we can do that.
Certainly.
So, do you think Paul and I should go first because we didn't end up buying them because you guys snatched them up, or do you want to start with your guys' takes?
Might not be a bad idea, just because we've had a day or two with it up until this point, whereas you guys got initial impressions and things like that, and maybe we can finish out with a little more long-term review, even though the long-term is still a 48-hour period. Yeah. So.
Yep.
Do you want to go first, Joe, or shall I?
I can go first. Why not? Just bring up my control panel here. So I am a pretty big fan of the original, such to the point that I don't actually feel the need to replace it the way that I abuse this knife. But at the same time, I was very impressed by the Mini. I ended up giving it an 83, a B+. Objectively, 8's on everything except lockup and actuation, which got a 9. This thing...
So you might say...
Don't!
I was trying to avoid it.
Even dare,
I was
you little son of a bitch.
I was trying to avoid it.
Joe, just keep talking. We're all good. Everything's fine.
Everyone's happy. Everything's
We've got
fine.
Some
Yeah.
mixed numbers on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Continue on.
So the high point for me is the action, because it's a Benchmade, it's an axis lock, it's smooth, it's well tuned. Honestly, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that knife. And I know people will say this, there's nothing wrong with that, as far as, like, it's pretty mediocre. Like, no, there's nothing really inherently wrong with the design of this knife. Like, it's super comfortable in hand. And again, I like the full size, but this one fits my hand fairly well. It's just a scaled down version, so I'm going to use this as far as pointing. But having this somewhat neutral forward portion to the handle here makes it very comfortable in a variety of grips. The one point where it got almost uncomfortable at first was this little tail end here. Tended to poke in the side of my hand just due to the size, but that was easily compensated for by just choking up a little bit further on the blade. Like, it's a very comfortable knife to hold. So using it for long periods of time, I imagine, is going to be pretty comfortable. Personally, where it really shone for me was the aesthetics. It's kind of cute. I'll bring the picture back up. But it's really cute. Like, here's a...
You're looking at it through such biased eyes because you have the full size.
There's a bit of that, but even aside from the cute...
Like, this ain't no Dragonfly Mini.
It looks
H&K,
cool. But it looks cool, and I don't know that it really shows well in this particular lighting. And actually, this photo is a little bit more clear. But the contouring, and that's one thing that... These knives actually have a little bit of contour from one side to the other, and you can see the grain of the G10 as it's being turned, and it looks like a really cool knife. Plus, it's got speed holes. Who doesn't want those?
And the curvature on the Gen 2 versions are significantly more dramatic than...
Yes.
Like, the Gen 1 was pretty square and glossy, right? So,
yes.
Anyway,
well, actually, if you're looking at that forward part of the choil, one of my favorite things they did, right in this area, you can see on the original, they didn't have any kind of, not an indicator, but a groove for your index finger. They added one to the Mini. I'm not sure if they added one to the new full-size Adamas. I'd have to double check, but as far as... Very cool. So as far as the Mini is concerned, like, they added a little bit of extra sculpting. It helps the aesthetic, and I think it makes it more comfortable in hand. And the original was already comfortable, so this is kind of cool. And it does come in different color variations. They have one in a... I've just got Benchmade's website here, but they've got one with this greenish kind of handle with a tan, or more like a coyote brown sort of blade coating. Either coloration to my eye...
We can just call it what it is. It's rose gold.
Rose gold. How expensive is this knife? No, but aesthetically, I love the look of this knife.
It's going to be like the Linton knife.
Oh Jesus! Yeah. Never mind that.
That's... You know what? Sorry.
Those Linton knives that you see in the shop.
Similar to, or that one year where Cold Steel did their Drop 4 series in that kind of rose goldy finish. Yeah, like that.
I wouldn't hate that, to be honest. Yeah. But honestly, I love the lines of this knife.
Shame on you.
I have a drop forged dagger, so you just I've got my opinions and you've got yours, and I'm just gonna cry quietly about mine.
As you should.
Yeah, exactly. Everything else. And my enthusiasm is a 9, mostly because of the crew wear. Again, not a steel you see very often at this price point, so super cool to see that it's becoming more widely available. It figures that Benchmade and Spyderco are the first two to the punch when it comes to getting this steel in a very accessible form factor. And I applaud the effort of making a smaller Adamas, because Chungus, thick, heavy, chungus of a knife. I carried this as my EDC for a couple months after buying it originally, and it's a big, heavy knife. The small guy, it's much more pocketable, much easier to carry around. There's nothing really bad to say about it. The one thing that maybe comes to mind is don't expect the sliciest knife. You know, it's a little bit thick behind the edge, just a little. Yeah. Especially if you compare it to a lot of like other Benchmades, like I don't know, the Bug Out, or a lot of Spider Codes like the PM2 or the Military. Very slicey by comparison, especially compared to that thick of a blade. But you could either sharpen it to a thinner angle and take use of the toughness of crew wear, which I would heavily advocate at least experimenting with, or just live with the fact that this is a rough and tumble knife that you can do some pretty intense work with. I'm super impressed. I didn't think I'd want to buy it as much as I do, but this might end up coming home with me the next time we get a chance. But I might wait for the brown, or the green rather, so it might match my full size a little bit better. But yeah, yeah, a little. So yeah, overall, I'm impressed. Paul, I guess you're up. Unless
I guess that's my turn, eh?
We'll do a quick shout out to the other Ben for joining us.
Oh,
yeah, it's been a while since he's joined us live as well.
Ben.
Glad you could.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
We just threw up a picture of the Mini Adamas, and it's a hot number right now. It's bringing in all the boys to talk about it. For sure, your own comments and what you think about it. Like I said, the full-sized rose gold, it'll be coming. The full-sized will be coming to the cutting edge, whatever it is, in a month when it gets released. So
24 days, 23 days now, I think.
Something. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get a batch of them for sure.
Also, what's going on, John?
Hey, John.
So I guess it's my turn, huh?
Sure is.
That it is.
You should show a different picture.
But you don't like that clip? All right. Well,
I do like that clip. We're just mixing it up.
Here, we're gonna look at it with the longer clip there. There we go.
Side or nothing, Dennis.
What's that?
Side or nothing.
Well, this one I took because it just highlights the crew wear on the blade. So
it's weird seeing CPM and then like a big old name.
Yeah.
Not numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed. Speaking of numbers, I gave this knife an 80, which is a solid B. In most categories, I gave it 8s. Where it did fall short a little bit for me was cutting ability. I gave it a 7. It kind of reminds me a bit of the mini Super Freak, the full-size Super Freak, as far as thickness behind the edge, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. They're thin, slicey knives are awesome, but sometimes having a knife that's got a little bit more robust edge that you can really beat on is something you want. For example, something that's a wee bit thick and kind of in that same kind of overall profile. So you can tell just from this alone how I feel about this knife.
We got to test out that roto lock on that bad boy.
This one,
Anyway.
we pinned it not accidentally, intentionally, so that.
We did the same thing as we did to mine. Anyway, continue on. Yeah. Cool. I forgot about that.
It's been a while. Yeah.
On the personal side of things, where it fell again, saying that it fell short is a way overstep. It is a thick knife. It is thick in this dimension as well as this dimension. So it's definitely something that you feel in your pocket. Outside of that, it rode surprisingly well for being such a chunk. High points for me were the ergonomic preference. That knife fits my hand so nicely. Just super nice. And my enthusiasm was pretty high for this knife before it showed up. I felt like it's something that I could definitely sell. I could talk up its features, but it wasn't necessarily something that I was considering for my own collection. and then I got it in hand, and there's a very good chance, and I'm gonna end up buying one of these. Yeah, nice solid 80.
Yeah.
It's a good number. That's a good number.
I believe it.
Well, I figure I'll just jump in there and throw myself out there saying I'll go next, because
Alright.
I also gave it an 80
Oh,
There
look
you
at
at
a
you
good
go.
solid beat.
Look at you
Yeah.
go.
Where is it here? Did that before I pulled it up. So yeah, both 8s for cost versus materials and fit and finish. It's really, really clean. Can't really see much wrong with it unless I'm getting super anally nitpicky about it. So it's nice. Did give it an 8 instead of a 9 for fit and finish, just because knowing Benchmade's reputation with their variances with the centering and those sorts of issues, that's why I gave it the 8 instead of a 9 for that. Like both Paul and Joe have commented about the cutting ability, it is thick. I actually measured it.
Two
It's
C's.
thicker.
Two
like
C's,
the blade.
by the way, for thick. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
The blade stock is thicker than a 456.
Wow.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
It's thick. So it will cut nice. Don't expect it to be crazy slicey cutting. Just because, yeah. Material or ergonomic execution and lockup and actuation both gave it a 9, because that thing is comfy. They did a bang on job as far as converting or resizing and not messing up the ergonomics in any way. Like that, they did it good. They did it good. And the lockup and actuation, it's an access lock. It's up there. I enjoy it.
For the Ergos there, I know I've got a photo here with somebody with it in their hand in front of a bunch of twigs and wood. Who's
that hand model sucks. By the way.
whose hand? Whose hand is that? Whose hand is that? I wonder.
Some kind of apple picker.
Oh. Yeah.
That'll tell you what a medium-sized width and an extra large finger length will be like when you're holding the knife.
Yeah.
So
it was nice of Joe to zoom right in on your dry skin on your hand, though.
It's all good. It's all good. We live in Alberta. Get over it. I'm waiting.
Yeah. So may as well jump in on that point for my score then. For ergonomic preference, I did give it a 7 because it's just a little snug for my hands. Like I couldn't use it wearing gloves. There's no way. It would be way too tight that way. It's just tight and just snug and barely fits, but it is very, very comfy. The contouring on the scales, I think, is what really sold it for me. Mm-hmm. That just getting it in hand, it just feels so good.
Contouring is.
I usually say go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say about contouring. Handle contouring is it seems like such a small thing, but it can really transform the feel of a knife in hand. It can change something from being it's acceptable to holy shit, that feels awesome. Yeah. Anyway, that's
Yeah, and then Pocket Ergos, I gave it the 7 just because, like how Paul was mentioning there, it is a fairly chunky handle to it. You definitely notice the weight and the feel of it in your pocket, but it's not obtrusive. Mm-hmm. And then Enthusiasm gave it an 8 because for the steel and just kind of the idea of oh, hey, Mini Adamas is cool. Potentially going to give it a 4 or 5, but like I mentioned in the pocket dump, as soon as I got it in my hand, it was just, fuck, that's comfy. I like it.
Paul made a comment, and he hasn't made it overall tonight, so I'm going to steal it from him. And he made a comment that it was a sleeper like the Bailout.
Yeah.
And that, everyone, the original Bailout was a little bit of a letdown, so everyone kind of just slept on it. And then the aluminum one came out, and everyone was like, holy crap, this thing is amazing. And I think this Mini Adamas is also going to be one of those, you get it in your hand and you're like, holy crap, this thing is awesome. Like, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Anyway,
It was funny
yeah.
watching both you and Nigel get it in hand for the first time, and me from it as an outside perspective, immediately going, they're buying that. It's going to happen, and then watching you buy it that same day.
oh, I thought long and hard. I thought long and hard.
Yeah, as far as that fizz fact goes, that's like instant, just like, ooh, hello.
There may have been a few things that have made their way into my hands where it's just like, shit, I'm making a purchase today. All right.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Figured cleanly rounds up mine. Yeah.
That's me. Last but not least, we're gonna split the difference on all y'all score.
Are we now?
Well, somewhat. I am going to score it at 82.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which throws it just scraping into a B+ category. I thought long and hard about some of the scores on this one.
All right.
Something that I'm super curious about that I don't think Joe actually dabbled on is you had an asterisk beside cutting ability.
Yes.
Was that because of the thickness behind the edge on it? Because you did give it an 8.
I did give it an 8, and it was because of the thickness behind the edge.
Because me and Nigel both scored it a 7, I believe, is what you also scored it.
Yeah.
You as well. Yeah.
So
I was curious about that score.
Very briefly, I'll address that. These knives may play a part later, but I have had a number of knives that I've used in a very abusive, outdoors, woodsy kind of role. Very thick behind the edge, relatively speaking, but they do their jobs very, very, very well. And if
we've had this conversation about like cutting ability and what it means, and the task at hand for an Adamas or a Mini Adamas, you might not necessarily want this to be a 15-degree angle, whatever type of thing, because these things are tanks, right? Like they're designing these things to be tanks.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say that I did actually regrind my Adamas to a 15-degree after some period of time of really abusively using it and thinking, I'm gonna risk it and see how it turns out.
We've had this conversation about whether it's the practicality of the knife itself, where the ritual, like Nigel was saying, you can cut in areas, or if it's the steel and the heat treatment, and if you rely on the heat treatment of the steel, do you cut it with a cutting ability, where do you place it, or the task at hand, which is this knife that probably is meant to be heavy duty, so a thicker 20 to 22 degree angle might actually be better for it than a 15 or less type of angle. So I was super curious when you had the asterisks and you didn't actually address it. So
just had a good quick night to Darren.
Oh, take care,
Darren.
man.
See you, buddy. For joining us.
Thanks for joining. Yeah.
And all your awesomeness. So, read the comments earlier. All the comments earlier, I'll explain that, but you got to scroll up for a ways. Anyway.
Excellent. Yeah.
So anyway, So the other thing with this knife as well is the coating on it is a little bit thicker. It's almost remnant of an SE style coating. Not quite as bad, but it's not as thin as the original coatings are. It's definitely going to slow you down a little bit. Right?
The original coating was very much a DLC coating. I would be surprised if it was more than a few microns thick. This new stuff is definitely a baked on sort of Cerakote-esque. It doesn't actually say Cerakote on the website, but I'm guessing it's a Cerakote. So
I bet you it'll be uncovered that it's Cerakote somewhere along the way, I'm sure. But it doesn't actually say. It just says tungsten gray finish on the website as of right now. So But yeah, scoring. Lockup and actuation, Ergos. I gave them both a 9 on that one. Ergonomically, I asked a whole bunch of people. We didn't take these home until the end of the week, and they had sat around for a couple days and people had checked them out or whatever. And everyone was like, holy cow, that thing is comfy as a glove. And it didn't matter if you were talking to a guy that was a small to a medium hand or a guy that was 6+ like Nigel and myself. Yeah, exactly. Everyone that handled it was like, wow, they executed this thing absolutely phenomenally, right?
Mhm.
So, personal side of things, the material choice, I struggled with this one too because of comments about the Spyderco Siren and the application for the job and the blah blah blah. Steel liners, things like that type of like which this has, but again, do you want something else? Do you want a pure G10 like you do with a Super Freak, or a Griptilian, or do you appreciate the extra going above and beyond and throwing some speed holes in to make up for it, right? So, yeah, pocket Ergos. I think I scored the lowest on this one. A whole bunch of guys
think
put
you
6,
did.
7s. Yeah. Okay, so my reasoning for a 6 on this is yes, it is kind of bricky, thick. Everyone mentioned on that, but the weight on this guy is not light. A Super Freak is 4.3 ounces. A sheep's foot Griptilian, which I have, so I actually looked at it because I wanted to realistically, is 4.1. The Mini Adamas is 4.6. So still not huge as far as the weight scale goes. But
it's not light.
No, it's not a light knife. And if you're looking at a Super Freak, it's actually like 0.3 ounces lower and a lot more blade with M4 that you can pound on, because I've batoned with my M4 too, even with the straight G10 lighters. I've tested that little sumbitch, right? So
I think for most people, they're going to be okay with the trade-off. A little bit more weight for a little bit more heavy-duty natured stability, for sure. But in the pocket, do you really find that it's that big of a difference?
I noticed the weight in my hand more than in my pocket. To tell you the truth. But when I'm putting it in my pocket, I definitely feel that. I feel the chunkiness against my wallet in the pocket, and when I'm pulling it out, I definitely can be like, oh yeah, that's a beefy little bastard, right? Like, it's so, yeah.
And I think I did just briefly mention that I could feel the weight of it in my pocket, and that was part of my pocket Ergo score.
For sure.
And like, I think part of that is like being used to carrying out the bailout lately. So it's compared to that, it's like, yeah, you notice it. You can tell it's there. You don't have to pat to double check for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you drop this knife, there'll be no doubt that you will turn around and go, "There's my knife," because you just like within 3 steps, you're like, I'm walking so much lighter all of a sudden, right? Yeah. Having said that, the full-sized Adamas, I just looked it up because I wanted to know the comparison, is almost 6.5 ounces. Compared to 4.6.
Lighter than I expected.
That's the new Adamas. I don't know what the old D2 one is. It's probably heavier than that.
It is. The old Adamas is closer to the Buck 110, which are both about 7 or so ounces. You notice it in the pocket. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and being that I did buy this knife strictly with the intention of just beating the living crap out of it, my enthusiasm is a 9 for that reason, because this knife is exactly the niche that I want it to fill is perfect. And it will be tested on this one. Couple notes on that. I saw in the comments the rose gold, and people are laughing about the rose gold. Don't get me wrong. I might actually exchange my black one for a rose gold one, but it depends on how rose gold that blade is.
Yeah,
if it's a nice desert tan, something like that type of thing, I can see myself actually picking one up. Whereas if it's got those pinky, purpley, whatever hues in that bronze, it might turn me off a little bit more, right? So
I'm not saying you can't trust Benchmade website photos, but yeah, you can't always trust Benchmade website photos. Yeah. Exactly.
2 other quick notes before we get the final score. I know we're almost at our government mandated break here, but one of the things is I love mini tanks. And that's always, if you look at what I have in my collection, there's something about little mini stubby beat the crap out of them tank knives that I kind of think are awesome. And even though it's not necessarily a mini knife, I agree with Joe with the like cute, adorable. This thing is a mini tank, but they like they did it to the max. Like they took this thing and just made the ultimate mini tank. And something, sorry, I'm backtracking twice. Paul looks like he was going to have a comment there.
I was just going to say, have we mentioned the fact that the mini Adamas is the same size as a full-size Griptilian?
Yeah, I flashed up my carbon fiber clip pointy just to show the similar footprint on that one. Something I was going to dabble on with the asterisks on Joe's score about the cutting ability. The other thing, other than the actual Cerakoting, that big-ass thumb stud. Holy cow. It is not joking around. So again, like back to the where do we put cutting ability in a cardboard cut, this thing would definitely get in the way. Even on batoning, I've got to be conscious about trying to break those thumb studs off because it is probably just a screw holding them together, right?
Hold that up again there, Nigel. The thumb studs, can you go to the flat? It is, like, the thumb studs are decently out of the way at least. Like they're
for the cutting ability, for sure.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about sharpening that back choil, they've got enough of a choil, it shouldn't be an issue, right? But one of the things I ultimately noticed, like compared to even a Contigo's thumb studs, things like that, is they made these like pyramid-y, coney things that are very protrusive. Yeah, for sure.
I like them.
I for what it is in an outdoor environment, even for myself with gloved hands, even though Nigel said he probably couldn't wear gloves, for what the Adamas is meant for, and you might be wearing gloves even with the full-sized one, is that you can rotate that. Very good purchase. The downside is if you're doing slicey paper cut tests to see about the cutting ability, those things might hang you up a little bit, right? So it's that struggle of where we put that definition of cutting ability. We're trying to find the fine lines on how to grade that particular category. It keeps on coming up, right?
You lose out on about 1/8 of an inch, really. I don't know that it really would impact scoring on my part for what it is.
Right? Anyway, why do I think there's a dick joke in there?
Yeah.
Something about losing 1/8 of an inch. Oof.
But yeah, we should get the final score and get this show rolling. So.
Yeah. Indeed. It's all ready to go. Are you guys ready? I mean, all the scores were so damn close together. This should be pretty easy to guess.
That average is probably in and around. 80 to an 83.
It's an 81.25. It ranks number 8 overall. But it is probably one of the more consistently scored knives that we have. I mean, like, I was the high point at 83. Dennis was 82. Nigel was 80. Paul was 80. It's definitely worth considering. So where does it fall in for this year, Nigel?
It's number 5, just under the carbon fiber bug out at 81.5. And then this guy was 81.25.
What I'm hearing is Benchmade's doing a good job this year.
We need to go back and reevaluate that large ego score. I'm just saying. I'm looking at that overall going, there's one of these things that does not deserve to be up in those ranks. But,
there may have been some outliers. Not so bad.
Indeed. Just a quick shout out to Black Frost in chat. What's going on, Matt?
Hey.
Caught up with us just in time for break. Awesome. Yeah. It's all good. The second episode is going to be a doozy. So.
The second episode is going to be
fun.
Bit of a cluster, but that's okay.
I'm gonna grab 2 beers for that one.
Well, I'm on beer number 2, so we'll see how that goes.
I think we're losing the finest tradition.
Thanks for joining us. I hope you liked our quick little score review. Let us know what you think about the new Mini on Tuesday when we release this. So,
Indeed.
For sure. So that being that, it is time for our government mandated break, like we have been hinting at there. So make sure you head on off and empty out your bladders, refill your drinks in the appropriate orders, and we shall return shortly with everyone. See you soon.